Hi everyone, we're here for the first puppy lesson, and what we're going to do is give you a little bit of background first, and then I'll introduce you to my apprentice Reggie, who's busy in the grass and chewing the lead at the moment. So the first thing I want to just go through is to let you know that the training that we do is probably best described as balanced training. It's balanced because we aim very, very much to rely only on positive feedback for the dog. And if we need to arrest a behavior that we don't like, then we don't punish in a way that would frighten or hurt the dog. So I'll explain punishment in a moment, but balanced training means that we will reinforce positive behaviors when they happen. Positive behaviors could just pop up out of the blue. So if Reggie was to sit down now without being asked, I would reinforce that. And he would start to get the idea that sitting down and being calm is a behavior that we like. If he's not going to do it voluntarily, then I will set him up to give me that behavior. So the way that I would set him up to give me that behavior is that I would get his attention with a piece of food. I would lift that food up above his head, and I would say yes, and I would give him the food. So food is really important because it can get their attention, it can reward them for what they've done, and it can be also used, as you'll find in other lessons, it can be used to help them overcome fears or worries, particularly about new things. So now that he's sitting there, oh no, he's got up. If he had have stayed sitting, I'd have reinforced him again and given him another treat. So balanced training, looking all the time for positives and rewarding those positives, or setting the dog up to give us those positives. Another thing that we really do like to impress upon people is to understand the rules of leadership. Now, the leadership term has been thrown around and heavily criticized in some circles for a couple of decades. When I talk about leadership, all I mean is that you have limitations, boundaries, and rules for the dog. Nothing nasty, nothing to do with dominating the dog, or being the alpha. That's nothing like what we're doing. We want the dog to know that there are boundaries. So at the moment, Reggie's chewing the lead. Now, if you weren't into positive reinforcement, you could smack the dog, which would be dreadful because he would start to become fearful of the humans around him. So what the best thing we can do for an unwanted behavior is to take away what the dog wants. So at the moment, it's a little bit tricky because if I take his lead away, he could move away into an area I don't want him to be in. So removing what the dog wants is just a great way of dealing with it. Story over. I'm letting you know that that's not appropriate. We also will interrupt the dog's behavior. So see how he's chewing like this. I could go, to which he's got a little bit of surprise and gone, what are you doing? But he's back at it. So I go, yes, good boy. Now if he continued, so he's chewing the lead, and if this was a normal home situation, you would take the dog and probably put him behind a barrier, or put him outside, or put him in the laundry, or even put him in his crate to say, and the message is, I told you once, I told you twice, I'm sorry, but I'm going to have a consequence now. And the most effective consequence for a dog is removing them from what they want or removing them from you. You are the whole world to them. And so if they know that they could be removed from you, you're going to get that understanding by the dog that means you might end up out of here. So let's talk a little bit about leadership again. So leadership is about having those rules. And we just say simply, control the resources in the dog's life. Control the food, control the toys, control the physical space. You decide where they go, when they go, why they go, and how they go to various resources. And that's a simple story for it. And if there's going to be any punishment, it's a warning, and then it's isolation. And the warning should not be scary. People sometimes will try to say, oh, but if I give him a tap on the nose, that usually works. But long term, it makes your dog scared of your hand and maybe overall scared of you. So we want to do everything gently and clearly and consistently. So let's move on to getting our dog's attention onto what we want and away from what we don't want. So what we would like is that he's no longer focused on the lead and chewing the lead. So this is a great little exercise that I'm going to use now. Reggie, I'm going to get his attention with the treat and I'm going to throw it just a short distance. Find it. And now he's not chewing the treat. He's gone off to do a bit of hunting. Okay? And he's actually out of view, unfortunately, but he's sitting down, so I'm going to reward him with a treat for sitting down. Good boy. Your treats only need to be small and they need to be soft. In fact, small, soft and stinky is a really good recipe for your treats. So now I want to engage Reggie again, so I'm going to say to him, find it. He's looking and thinking about it, but he's already dropped a little bit over there himself. Find it. Find it. Find it. Find it. Reggie and I have only just met today, and he's a little bit standoffish, just wondering what he's supposed to be doing. Maybe he's camera shy. So here he comes, and he's come to find what I've put on the ground. But now the chewing on the lead isn't happening. So that's one of many uses you can have for this exercise called Find It. If you're around other dogs and your dog is being distracted, find it. I'm throwing them fairly close at the moment. You could throw them further out if you want the dog to move away from something. Reggie, find it. In the beginning, get his attention very close up to the treat and throw it when you know he's going to follow the direction of the throw. Find it. Good boy. Okay, so that is a really, you can use it to move your dog along past a barking dog on the street. You can use it to turn your dog around and walk them back the other way. You can use it to interrupt an unwanted behavior, even as simple as chewing the lead. How do I stop my dog chewing the lead? Give him something else to do. Do that find it thing. Okay, so now let's talk about how we give the dog really accurate feedback when they're doing the behavior that we want them to do. So, and the way that I'll explain it is, Reggie, come. So the way that I'll explain it is that if I get Reggie to do something like to sit, basically there's a bit of a gap between my hand and the dog. So I want to be able to tell him quicker than I can get the food to him. So what we want is a marker word, and the marker word is yes, and then we pay them. So the sequence for you will be ask for the behavior, get the behavior, say yes when you get it, and the treat comes after that. So that the dog is prepared at the exact point of that positive behavior to know that there will be something good coming for that behavior. So Reggie's just cleaning up the ground over here of all the treats I threw before. Reggie, come. Reggie, come. Find it. So see how Find It will get a reluctant dog to come to you too. Now, so I can keep him near me, I'm going to stand on my lead. Oh, a voluntary sit. Yes. Okay. So now I'm going to teach him that yes means food. That's all I'm going to do. I'm not going to put any behaviours in there at the moment. I'm just going to teach him that yes means food. Okay. Ready, Reggie? Yes. 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 So you can see that these treats need to be very little because he's taking quite a while to chew each one, and yet they are quite tiny anyway. Yes. 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 So the idea is, first of all, to just teach the dog the association between yes and food. And that's called the marker word because it marks the behaviour. So now that we've got a marker word, we can start to use it when he's doing what we want him to do. So I'm going to move on to a really, really valuable strategy. It sort of goes really well with Find It. And it's the strategy that you would use, particularly when your puppy's old enough to go out on the lead and they're more distracted by everything else around them and not really interested in you. So this is a focusing exercise, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the treat at his nose. I'm going to lift it to my eye because he will follow it up. I'm going to point like this, and I'm going to say to him, watch, yes, and pay him. So I start with a lure. I'm letting him smell it. He's so interested in the smell, he's going to watch it as it comes to my eye. I'm going to be pointing and saying watch, so he's going to learn a hand signal as well. I'm going to say yes when he is looking at me, and then I will pay. Reggie, watch. 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 Yes. Now you have to be careful that you do it quickly enough that the behaviour is still there. If you need to repeat it in this early stage, just place the food back at their nose, up to your eye, watch, yes. So this could be for dogs that are scared of cars. This could be for dogs who are more interested in everything outside and not to you. It can be anything where you want the dog to look back to you. The secret with this is you need to be far enough away from the distraction for the dog to be able to look at you. So if you're trying watch, 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 and you're just not getting anywhere, you need to move back further. Maybe do this for a shorter time, grab the first bit of eye contact, or sometimes you need to upgrade the treats. Because the bigger the distraction, then the more you've got to work against that distraction, and one of your features is going to be how good's the food, how good is the treat. So there's your watch strategy. Very, very valuable, particularly when you start going out on the lead. So as I mentioned earlier, a third use for your food is for what we call desensitization. Basically making your dog feel good about something that maybe they weren't going to be inclined to like. Now for puppies, there's a whole lot of handling that happens that they've never had happen before, not by human hands. Certainly their mothers have handled them, and they've had experiences where their other litter mates have handled them in a way, but human hands are a different thing. So human hands over the head can be quite spooky to the dog. Human hands wanting to hold a collar or even put a collar on can be quite confronting. And really, what we need to do is have them think that having this handling happen is one of the best things in the world, because we're going to pair it with food. Now, what I've done to make sure that Reggie has a really positive experience is I've switched my treats over to a little bit of hard cheese, which is okay to use in training or desensitizing. We're not going to feed it to him daily. Broken into little pieces. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to touch his collar, because it's something we need to do. If we don't get him used to having his collar touched, then he's going to either learn to run away when our hand comes in, or we're going to lose him when we desperately need to grab his collar because he's just run out the front door. So we really need him to think that having his human hand come out and grab his collar is all fine. So it's a little bit in your timing. We always say to you, say his name, Reggie, grab his collar, give him a treat. So by putting that treat in his mouth, I've taken his focus off my hand and off the collar, but I'm desensitizing him. Now I would change hands and I would go this side, Reggie, give him food. I'm giving him the tiniest crumbs of cheese, but to Reggie, it's Christmas. Reggie, now I'm grabbing it underneath. I'm not pulling it hard, but I'm actually letting him know that I'm there, so that he goes, yeah, sure, don't worry about the collar, no worries. Same with a lead, you want to get them used to that. Reggie, grab food. And probably get him to practice with each member in the family, so that he's not just good with the one person who keeps doing the exercise, but everybody. Reggie, round here and pay. The other thing that you can do is to get them used to the sound of the lead going on to them. I've got another lead here. So even to get them used to just hearing this click, or you could grab the collar if you've got 3 hands, grab the collar, click the lead, and then give him a treat. So this is the beginning of desensitization of your puppy. So valuable and so important before they turn 18 weeks of age. Now see how he has sat himself appropriately. He's sitting, he's quiet, he's watching me. And so I will say yes and give him a treat. So some people are quite cynical about the food, but honestly the food makes that connection. So some people call it dog money. I quite like dog money. So giving the appropriate behavior, yes. Desensitizing to the collar, Reggie, grab food. Sound of the lead, click, click, Reggie. I could even put it on, let's say, and then give him a treat, yes. Okay, so that's the desensitization for the collar. Now, lots and lots of people say to us, oh, my dog doesn't know his name. Well, he wasn't born knowing his name, and you gave him his name. So basically, he needs to learn that his name gets him a reward. Maybe he'll never go home and think to himself, my name's Reggie, but he'll know that whenever they say Reggie, it's worth my while to look at them. And I'll show you what I mean. So I'm going to do a little find it on the grass with a bit of cheese. Reggie, find it. Find it. Didn't quite make that one. Find it. And then I'm going to call his name. Reggie. Reggie. Yes. And then I pay him. So the magic moment is when they look at you. You're going to say Reggie. When they look at you, you're going to say yes and pay them. Why am I throwing? Because I want to get his focus off me so I can call for it back. Find it. Reggie. Yes. He doesn't have to sit for it. We're not that fussy. We just want him to turn round. We want him to know that Reggie means, you know, over here, connect with me. Find it. Now he's distracted and I go, Reggie, yes. As quick as I can, I say that yes, so that he realizes that what he's just doing now is the bit that is being reinforced. Okay, So now we want to practice. People really want their dogs to come when they're called, and a lot of puppy training is about teaching the vocabulary. Well, if I want the dog to come, I'd better set them up to know what come means. So I'm going to use find it again because it is such a good distractor to then work back on. So I'm going to start with a find it, and then I'm going to teach him the word come when it's the most relevant to him. So I'm going to go find it, then I'm going to go Reggie, come. Yes. So I said come when he was already turning to me. Watch me do it again. Reggie, find it. Reggie, come. Yes. We've got to get him when he's in that motion. There's no point calling out to a puppy, come, 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 expecting them to know what come means, because they just won't. Reggie, find it. Reggie, come. Yes. Now, interestingly, I threw a dog treat then, but I've been using cheese, and he straight away spat out the dog treat because he knew that I had better stuff. So be aware of what we call the value of your treats, and if you need to fiddle with that, please do, so that you keep your dog engaged. So that's saying his name and getting him to come. So we could join those all together, couldn't we? Okay, so here we go. Reggie, find it. Here, find it. Here he comes. Now I call his name. Reggie, yes. Come, yes. And I give it to him. So I actually said yes for him looking at me. And then I said yes when he moved to me, and I threw the word come in. My suggestion at this point is that you may not like to replay sections of this video to get each snippet of each skill that I'm talking about. So let's move on to the next bit. So let's talk a little bit about getting your dog to sit. Everybody seems to be keen that the first thing they want to do with their puppy is to teach them to sit, and it is a valuable behaviour. The more sitting they do, the less jumping they're going to do, and also it just gives you that connection with the dog to have things to ask the dog to do to fall into line with you. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but just so that the dog becomes connected to you, expecting that you will give them some directions. So, Reggie, how about this? Yes. So he looked at me, so I gave him a treat. Find it. Now, Reggie's getting tired, and so it's time for me to bring up the point that when you do training with your puppy at home, you wouldn't do a great big long hour like this. Now see how he's gone into the sitting position? I will say to him, yes, so that he starts to realise that when his bottom's on the ground, we humans, we really love this. So if we want a sit, we want to be able to teach him how we ask for it. In the beginning, it's a lure. So I get his attention with the smell. I lift my hand slowly, so he's watching the food up above his head. His bottom comes down, I say yes, and I pay him. Now, if I'm doing a little bit of practice at home, he may just stay sitting there because he loves the cheese. So I might need to get him to get his bottom up, and a really good way to get his bottom up is to go, find it. Now I've got a non-sitting dog, so I can grab his attention when he's finished finding that little bit of cheese, and I can go, yes. Now, as you'll notice, all I'm doing is giving gestures at the moment. I'm not saying sit, 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 because he doesn't know what it means. He doesn't know what come means until I've started saying come when he's coming to me. Remember all the time that when you randomly see your dog doing what you want, you go, yes. So a little sit there while I'm talking, awesome. So we don't start by saying sit. We purely lure and get the dog used to a hand signal. So, Reggie, come. He'd rather not move. I'm going to do a find it, find it. Right, now he's up. Now watch the movement of my hand. Here's the lure. Lift my hand up. Sit. Yes. This flat hand becomes the hand signal. Boy. So over time, this motion and that flat hand become your hand signal for sit. And in lots of cases, you don't need to have food. My dogs get this many times a day with the word sit, and they seldom get food these days, but they still respond to the hand. So let's say now, Reggie's getting pretty reliable. Find it. So he goes and he finds it. Only he's having a lie down because he's tired from the work we've done this morning. Reggie, come. I'm lifting my hand, and if I'm sure that he's going to sit, I'm going to say sit. Sit, yes. So the sit word comes in when you're feeling pretty confident that the dog's bottom is on the way to the ground. I'll try one more for this tired little boy. Find it. Reggie, come. I'm going to grab his collar as well, and I'm going to say sit. So I'm doing a bit of desensitization there as well. I'm actually getting him used to working with me, doing a come. My hand's going to grab you. You're going to sit down. Find it. I'm going to see if I can get him to come to me, but I'm aware that he's getting more tired by the minute. Reggie, come. Reggie, come. Reggie, come. Yes, okay, he's lying down already. I'll grab his collar anyway, and I'll give him a treat. I didn't get the sit in there, but I'm fairly sure if you rewatch that section, you're going to understand how that works. I'm going to move on now to another position that we teach the dog. We teach the dog to move out of a sit into a stand. Just a standing still, and it's almost like he heard me say to him, sit. The reason is we want to have a little collection of things that we can ask our dog to do, particularly if they're heavily distracted. So when I get my dog to stand, it's a lure. I've got a little bit of cheese in my hand. I'm going to put it in his nose and I'm going to bring it forwards. Yes, and as soon as his paws have come up so that the four of them are supporting his body, I'm going to say yes and pay him. I'm going to put him back in a sit. Sit, yes. Now I'm not going to pay him. I said yes, that's a good indication that he's right. Now I'm going to put it in front of his face. I'm going to bring it forwards. Stand, yes. Now I would only say stand when I know he's headed up to the standing up position. Stand, yes. What a clever boy. So I'm right close to his mouth. When you see me doing stand, I've practically got my fingers in his mouth with the treat, and my hand doesn't move very far. I'll see if he's got one more stand in him. Reggie, sit. Good boy. Okay, so I'm at his mouth. Watch the distance of my hand. It doesn't go very far. Okay. Stand. Yes. So it's a tiny movement. Now, if you really get your dog into sync, you might be able to do this. Stand. Yes. Sit. Yes. Stand. Yes. Sit, yes. Stand, yes. Sit, yes. So my yeses worked 5 times to keep him going. I only gave him 1 treat at the end. Why do you do it? Because we all need to be able to engage our dog to work with us. We're going to talk now about a little exercise that we do with all our puppies, and it's called the settle exercise. Now I'm going to give you the reasons for doing it first. We want to A, be able to calm our dogs down when they're in a bit of a crazy mood. B, we want them to know what it's like to feel chilled rather than having a party all the time. C, we want to give this settled behaviour a name so that we can, down the line, be able to say to our dog, settle. They know what it means because we've set them up to feel settled. And the last reason, D, is so that they get used to a little bit of unusual handling. Now I'm going to pick Reggie up in a moment. He is in a mad mood, and I'm going to put him into the settle position, and my process will be that I will sit him back on my lap and I will hold him gently. I'm not restraining him. I'm going to hold him gently, and I'm just going to be as calm as I can myself, and I'm going to wait for him to lose his hyper and go into a more of a calm, floppy position. When he goes into that floppy position, I will name it. So really it will be wordless when I pick him up, when I hold him still. He's in a really bitey mood at the moment. So we're going to see how we go. I'm not going to try to tell him to stop biting because I believe that it will stimulate him more. I'm going to pick him up and very matter-of-factly just wait to see if he goes calm. If he goes calm, I will say settle because I will be naming the position, the emotional state that he's put himself in. Reggie, come. Okay, so here he is, wriggle, 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 but when he wants to eat my badge, but I'm going to hold him up with my hands quite loosely, and when he goes floppy or relaxes a little bit, settle. Settle. So I'm picking the moments when he is settled to tell him to settle. Settle. Nice kisses. Settle. That was a big sigh. Settle. It's the first time he's ever done this. But if we reinforce those still, quiet moments, settle. After a while, the word settle will mean do this. And so we'll have a cue to give our dog to say, we're not doing anything else. We're just lying, sitting still and being calm. So Reggie's dad's home now, so who knows what's going to happen. So that's your settle exercise. Practice it every day, also so they get used to you handling them. So now to a really big and important topic, the topic of puppies biting you. It's a universal thing. They use their mouths to investigate. They don't have opposable thumbs to hold on to things. They've been in the litter with their litter mates and they've been using their mouths to investigate. But their litter mates have been working and giving them feedback about how hard the bite is. And if the bite is too heavy for the litter mates, they will do two things. They will squeal and they will move away from the dog. So they'll put them in isolation. So we need to pick up that philosophy. We need to pick up the philosophy that if you bite me, I'm going to let you know, 1, that you've hurt me. 2, I'm going to not interact with you. So not interacting could mean putting them out, putting them in the laundry, putting them in a crate, tethering them. It doesn't matter. Basically, you remove yourself straight away and you do it straight away. So there's no 3 chances on this. The puppy bites you, you go, ow, and you isolate them. Don't try to give them another chance. They're not going to understand that. If you're immediate with those 2 steps, squealing and isolating, then the puppy's going to very quickly learn that biting doesn't get them anything. In fact, it gets them what they don't want. So that's your rule now. Don't make excuses, but anytime they've laid their teeth on you, ow, and move away and put them away. Some people say, oh, I've tried squealing and it just makes the dog go worse. Yes, because you haven't got the next step. The next step is isolate them. Outside, in the laundry, in a puppy pen, wherever. Just remove them from you. So that's the first of 3 things we tell you about biting. The next thing we do is that we teach you to do what we call a little pressure test. And the pressure test is about putting your finger right up the back of their mouth. And the secret is that when they're puppies, the teeth aren't through yet there, but they're still going to clamp down on your finger when you've shoved it up the back of their mouth. When they clamp, and it won't hurt, you're going to squeal like you're one of the puppies in the litter, ow! And you're going to turn your head away. Now, this is an exercise we don't want to overdo. We just want the puppy to know that pressure on human skin hurts, ow, and we won't interact with them. We don't lock them away after this one. It's just a little test to see if they can learn to give less pressure, less pressure, less pressure. This doesn't replace the last strategy. The last strategy is you bit me out of the blue, I'm squealing and putting you out. This is a setup to see if they can realize that that's too hard with their teeth. So I'm going to get Reggie ready to do this exercise and I'll talk a little bit more about it at the end. So your position for this one is the same as the settling exercise. So it's a good idea to practice the settling exercise so you get a more relaxed dog here. Settle, settle. Now I'm going to take my finger. I'm not going to muck around. I'm going to go straight into his mouth, up the back. When he gives me pressure, I'm going to squeal and look away. I don't overdo it. It usually makes most dogs stop. I might do 2, but then I would give the dog a rest. I'm in here. Ow! Now, some dogs will turn around and lick you to try to say sorry. Some dogs will just freeze. We're not hurting them. They're not particularly hurting us. Now, what happens, do that once or twice a day, and even after a few days, you'll find that they're experimenting to see if they can do it softer so you won't squeal. And because they don't want to hurt you, but even though they're doing it softer, I want you to keep giving them feedback that it was just the most painful, horrendous thing in the world. You've got to go for the Academy Award in this so that eventually the dog starts to develop what we call a soft mouth. In some instances, the dog will start to go, don't put your finger in my mouth, which isn't a bad thing after all. So that's our number 2, is the little pressure test, right up, go up the back. It was hard for me to get my finger all the way up the back for him, so just go as far to the back as you can. I've never drawn blood on that. Squeal, look away. Okay, so that's number 2, and in a minute we're going to look at number 3. Okay, biting strategy number 3. So the first 2 are about immediate ways to interact with the dog over biting and get a result. This one is training your dog to understand that there's a cue that means don't touch me. Mainly it means don't touch me with your mouth, don't touch me with your paws. So we like to choose a nice short word that has a clear meaning because we've taught them properly, and our word is off. And the way you use it is when the dog has put his teeth on you or put his paws on you, you have taught him that off means detach. Now, this takes a little while to teach the dog, so practicing it today won't give you a skill that when he bites you tonight, you'll be able to go off and he gets off. When he bites you tonight, you're going to go ow and put him out because you're still on that beginner level. This is our long-term goal, and it's very, very effective if taught clearly to the dog. So what you're going to do is we need to reward him for stopping biting. So we're going to set up a bite, and then we're going to reinforce him when he stops biting. So I've put a treat in my fist here, and my fingers are curled around. It's there, the dog knows it's there but can't get it out. I'm going to put this in front of his face as a lure, and he won't be able to resist, but he's going to try to get it out of my hand. And as he's trying, I'm going to hold firm. I'm going to hold so firm, I'm going to put it against my leg so that my hand's not going to move. If my hand starts moving all over the place, he won't learn to get off me. So I'm going to offer him the lure against my shin, it will be, and he will be doing this, and I will be saying off, 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 which he has no idea of the meaning. But after a while, he's going to disconnect. For whatever reason, he might see a fly, he might think I've dropped it, but he'll go from this, touching me, to not touching. All I'm going to pay is not touching. I'm going to say yes and give him the food. So that's how the beginning of teaching off works. Dog wanting the food, wanting the food, wanting the food, and me saying off, off, off. Dog disconnects, I go yes, and I pay. So I'll just get Reggie ready to show you down at ground level, and we'll be back. So I've got my treat in my hand, curled around my finger, and I'm going to go to Reggie's nose height. He wants it. Off, 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 off. He's having a good smell. Off, off, yes. Now, it doesn't matter how many times you say it. It's really not going to matter. You'll start saying it less and less when they realize that if they're touching you, you won't release this. In the end, he was a bit distracted. I don't believe he was going, oh, she said to get off. I'd better get off. And then I'm going to repeat, because training a dog is all about repetition. Off, 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 off. Yes, that was a tiny disengagement, but he stopped touching me. Now, the more we pay these tiny disengagements, even if they're flukes, the more the dog picks up a pattern that if they're touching you, they get nothing. Off, 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 off. Yes. So after a while, the dog's going to say, hey, when I'm touching them, I get nothing. If I stop touching, I get something. So what's in your hand needs to be yummy enough that they want it, but they learn the key to getting it is to stop touching you. Off, 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 off. Yes. Keep your training sessions short on this. 2 to 3 minutes is enough. Do it frequently during the day. Get them used to, this is a lot of thinking for a puppy. They're likely to be quite fatigued after this. I'm going to make this my last one. Off. Off. Now look how much quicker it was, and he actually sat. They don't have to sit, but when they start sitting down because you've said off, you realize that they've learnt that they need to disengage with you. Let's see if he does it one more time. I'm a bit like this. I'll even take it into him. Off. Yes, look how long I got that. So you can start to hang off for a little bit longer before you give it to him. So he understands that off means don't come back, don't touch me again. You need to get away from my hand to get this food. So everybody loves that one. So have a practice and join it together with the other two strategies. So you've got 3 things operating together. So we're on to the topic of toilet training, and I've got a few pointers to make, and then I'm going to give you a demonstration. Okay, so dogs don't know that there's a right and a wrong place to go to the toilet. They're dogs. When they need to go to the toilet, they stop and they unload. That's just dogs. It's not naughty. I say to people, you've taken a dog into a human environment. They need to start to understand the do's and don'ts of the human environment. So we need to set them up for success. So one of the main things is that when the puppy is in the house, they need to be confined in a space in which they can't practice going to the toilet. So free roaming in the house for a puppy is strongly discouraged, because I sort of look at it like a scoreboard. And every time the puppy goes and does a wee inside your house, they're weakening the concept of no wees in the house. So we need to set them up for no wees in the house. Then we need to be able to maneuver them out to the grass or whatever area is going to be a toilet, and wait for them to go to the toilet and be right next to them, so that the minute they've finished, we can say yes and give them a treat. Maybe even 2, maybe even 3. So if they never get the chance to practice going to the toilet in the house because we've got them confined, but when they're outside and they go to the toilet, we have a triple-decker party, then this is where they're going to want to go. Can they free roam in the house? Yes, as long as somebody is tailing them like a security guard. Watch what they're doing. Watch whether you think that's going to turn into a toilet moment. If it is, get them out and put them on the grass. If you catch the toilet moment, you're going to hit a jackpot here, because they'll go to the toilet. You'll be able to say yes. You'll give them a treat. Now, yes, I am standing behind a crate. And all the doubting Thomases in the world go, oh, why would I put my dog in a cage? The crate is your very best friend. The crate will stop your puppy from going to the toilet in the house, because they will be in a space that's so small and intimate and has their bed in it. They know innately. We don't even need to teach them that you don't want to go to the toilet in your bed. How horrible would that be? They already know that's horrible, to go to the toilet in their bed. If you've bought a big crate and your puppy is still little, it's a good idea to divide that crate off so that it's only bed size, so that they're less likely to wee. If it's a little puppy in a great big crate, they will be in their bed at one end, but they'll toilet at the other. You don't want a dog to start to learn to toilet in a crate. Okay, so we've got to monitor this a bit too. So here's a really, really good exercise for teaching the dog to really, really love going into the crate. So what you do, I like to tie the door open. I would suggest that for new puppies, just have the crate available in the house. Maybe have the crate with the door tied open in a puppy pen, so that they're in a pen and they're not wandering everywhere, but most puppies start to choose to go into here. Reggie's never been introduced to the crate, but today he's already been trying to get in there. We want them to think that great things happen in the crate. We introduce the dog to the crate slowly. We don't put them in and shut the door. Leave the door open and let them explore. You can even do things like tie a chewy, delicious treat to the back wall, so they've got to come in here. They go, oh, there's a treat in here. Oh, I can't get it out. I'd better lie down and have a positive time in the crate eating something nice. So here's a little process. You put a few treats in the crate. You take the dog away, and I'm just going to say maybe I'll try to do it here so I can come around the corner. You come back near the opening to the crate. Reggie, come. Reggie, come. Good boy. You let him discover what's in here. So you're not going to pull him in or push him in or tell him to go in. In fact, what you could even do is maybe even throw a couple in. As soon as the puppy's in, as soon as they're where you want them to be, drop some more treats in. Have them start to think that when they get in this crate, it starts raining treats. Okay, and we'll take him away. Now the idea is we want to take him away frequently. Come on, Reggie, let's go. But you know what? If he's going to hang out in here, I could drop a few more pieces. If your dog's happily settled in there and looks like Reggie's in for the duration now. So let me explain what you would do. He's quite happy in there. Yay, hallelujah. Don't try to shut the door. We're not up to that. Most puppies will go in for a little bit, get the treats, and then you move away with them. But before you go away, you drop a few treats in, so that when you bring the puppy back, you're not telling them to go in. They're going back to this treasure chest and wanting to go in to find more treats in there. It starts to be a place that they want to seek out, because every time they go there, there's something nice in there. So you do maybe 5 minutes of drop the treats, take the puppy a few steps away, come back to the crate. He comes in and goes, look what I found. Drop extras. So once he's come back and made a discovery and he's already in there, drop more. So he thinks that, oh, it's a problem when they bounce out of the crate. Okay, but I'm dropping extras in that he can see. There we go. So life in the crate is amazing. So you would do walk away, come back, discover some treats, throw some extras in. Walk away, come back, discover some treats, throw some extras in. So that's your routine. After a while, that puppy is going to be moving towards the crate to get in there. That's just logical, because they're going, I want to be in there, because every time I go in, it's great. So as your puppy is making a beeline for the door, you can then give them the cue to get in that door, and the cue is in your crate or in your bed or go to bed, whatever is your little set of words that the family's going to use. So in our house, we just say in your crate, and our dogs just walk in. They don't need food in there. They just know that it's time to get in there. It's a happy place. It's a safe place. To most dogs, they want a little den like this that they can hang out in, go and have a rest in. In houses with children, sometimes it's a wonderful way for the dog to be given a break from the children. Eventually, when the dog's going in quite willingly and just hanging out in there, and this would be after days, maybe a couple of weeks, you would close them in. So he's coming out now, and this is all about what the dog wants to do. I'm going to give him a little find it over here. Find it. Then I'm going to put a little bit of lure in here. He's just finding that treat in the grass. But this is all about the dog's choice. That's what I love about it so much. So I might even get his attention and do one find it into there. Ready? Ready? Find it. Find it. And in he goes and he finds a little treasure trove in there. And remember, your role now is to throw extras in. Grated cheese works really well for this because it falls down like rain. So there's no stress. There's no forcing him to do something. He's stepped out now, that's fine. I could walk away with him. Reggie, come. Reggie, come. Come. And he'd rather leave his back feet in the crate, that's fine. Okay. Reggie, find it. There he goes. He's found another one over there. But it's all on his terms. We're setting it up to make it easy for him to access good stuff. There he goes again. So he's willingly going in. There's a few more treats in there. I'll rain a few more down. So take it slowly. Don't be in a hurry to shut this door. Just make it a happy experience and give the puppy as much access to the crate as you possibly can. Okay, hope that helps. We've reached the end of lesson 1. Lesson 1 is huge, and we know that. And we'll be back next time with lesson 2. Thanks for watching.